The New York Times reported on their website titled Elders Behind the Wheel, July 27, 2003. An 86-year-old driver plowed through a farmer's market at high speed, killing 10 people and injuring dozens of others. It is events such as this that I propose the United States government enact laws which require citizens aged 65 and older submit to a driving test, a cognitive test, and eye exam annually before they are permitted to renew their driver's license. Today I will begin first by identifying the problem with the current system and my ill. Second, I will identify those responsible for this issue and my blame, and I will then provide a course of action as a cure solution to the problem. Last, I will weigh the cost-to-benefit ratio for implementation of the new system. Now that I've outlined my argument, let's move on to discuss the issue and our ill. Currently, it has been left for each state to decide how often and which requirements need be met for drivers to renew their license. The lapse of time and renewal periods means that there is an increased probability that an elderly driver will experience a medical condition which can severely impair that driver's ability to safely operate a motor vehicle. In the article titled Elderly Licensure Laws and Motor Vehicle Fatalities, authors Grabowski, Campbell, and Morrissey cited the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety in saying, drivers 65 and older are expected to account for as much as 25% of total driver fatalities in 2030, compared to 14% currently. Now that I've discussed my ill, let me move on to my next point, which is blame. For this issue, we will be placing structural blame on state regulations, which enact laws, and an attitudinal blame on the public. Specifically, the laws and regulations pertaining to drivers are meant to keep our roads safe. As for the attitudes of the public, it is understandable that people equate their ability to operate a motor vehicle to that of a sense of freedom in which they are able to travel from place to place. And by enforcing stricter laws and regulations on driving renewal requirements, it is clear that at least some of these people will see this as an infringement of their rights. Now that I've discussed where we will be placing our blame, let me move on to my next point, which is the cure for this issue. The new system will require individuals 65 and older to complete a road test, vision test, and cognitive test annually. In fact, some states are already enforcing new requirements for license renewal. According to the website pewtrust.org, an article titled Should Older Drivers Face Special Restrictions? Last updated December 15, 2016, author Jenny Burgle quoted the Insurance Institute writing, 19 states have shorter renewal periods for drivers over a certain age. Now in that same article, Should Older Drivers Face Special Restrictions, Burgle wrote, at least 38 states have set up some kind of advisory board to detect older drivers who may be a danger on the roads because of certain physical or mental conditions. Now, according to the New York Daily News, in an article titled Rules of the Road, a 50-state look at the rules governing driver's licenses for older adults, updated September 17, 2012, wrote, the State Department of Transportation already essentially audits drivers, about 1,900 randomly chosen a month, all over the age 45, are required to get a physical from their own doctor and an eye exam before they can renew a license. Now, according to authors Mary Kelly, Norma Nielsen, and Tracy Snodden in the article Aging Population and Driver's Licensing, A Policy Perspective, published March of 2014, wrote, granting a license gives rise to expected crash costs, which is calculated as the social cost of a crash multiplied by the probability of a crash. It is only logical to assume that enforcing a policy for the licensing renewal of older adults, the result will be a reduced risk of collisions and driving fatalities. Now, based on the argument made previously, It is my belief that seniors 65 and older should be required to take a driving test, cognitive test, and eye exam annually. Now, in my ill, I identified the problem that state regulations do not enforce certain requirements be met before allowing licenses to be renewed. I submitted that structural blame on state regulations and attitudinal blame on the public. I identified the cost to be that of expected crash costs. And I identified one viable benefit as the reduced risk of collisions and driver fatalities. As one of the largest generations of the American population are now between the ages of 57 and 65 years old, we must consider the risk of seniors behind the wheel. With the probable decrease in vision, physical, and cognitive abilities, seniors are at an increased risk of collisions and driving fatalities. With the appropriate regulations in place, we can reduce these risks and increase the safety of our loved ones.